All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me introduce myself. My name is James Frank. I'm a state representative out of Wichita Falls, and also, I guess I'm finishing my third two-year term, and I'm actually also on the THSC board. Actually, I think that's part of the reason I ended up getting so involved politically is Tim Lambert tends to have that effect. I know there's a number of people in that room that would acknowledge he's had that effect on you as well. But it's really an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. I'm actually out of Wichita Falls, Texas, which is at the rate Houston's growing, eventually you're just going to call that North Houston. We're up actually by the Red River, so I think it may be a few years. But I have my wife, Alicia. We've been married for 29 years, and we've actually spent 21 of that homeschooling. We have 6 boys, 2 out of college, 2 in college, and then we just, about 3 years ago, adopted a couple more boys, and we have a 12 and a 14-year-old still at home that we're working on. I was going to encourage the parents, just a quick homeschool note. Some of y'all have babies and those kind of things. Just a reminder that, if I say this right, the days are long, but the years are short. I just remember the other day, literally, just tell you one quick story. When my boy was about 3, my oldest was about 3 or 4, he was at home in the backyard and Mom we had a couple of girls over, and I guess even before she was homeschooling, she was working on their spelling words with them in the backyard. And he didn't actually read at the time, didn't know any words, and I think he was a little frustrated that she wasn't asking him anything. And so Glenn went up to Mom and said, "Hey, I know how to spell farm." And Alicia kind of looked at him, surprised because she knew he didn't. And he said, as serious as can be, he said, "Yeah, it's E-I-E-I-O." That's a true story. That's not like a preacher story. Anyway, I love THSC. It's an honor to be able to do this. I love Tim Lambert and all the work that the organization does. We're going to do a few things tonight. We're going to have fun. One of the things that we're doing to have fun, if y'all would, for those Twitterers out there, we're using the hashtag THSC Gala 2018. I know a bunch of y'all are going, "What's that?" But other of you know. So if you would do that, and we're actually going to go Facebook Live at 8 o'clock. But we're going to have fun tonight. I hope that we encourage you, whether you're a homeschool parent, I hope you leave encouraged. If you're a donor, I hope you leave encouraged. If you're a political activist or all of those wrapped into one, we hope you leave encouraged and inspired. Inspired to support THSC, to support homeschooling and parental rights. It is now my great honor to be able to introduce Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Tonight's theme we're going to talk about a fair amount is courage. And Dan Patrick has that in spades. He leads on principle and often serves as the main target of those who oppose who oppose conservatism. He is literally one of the biggest, if not the biggest, supporter of homeschooling in the legislature. Bar none. He is one of the biggest. He is also, as you know, THSC has moved to have parental rights. That is something that we're focusing on as a board and as an organization. And again, we worked with Governor Patrick last year on CPS, and he made sure as we went through those changes that nothing weakened the parental rights that are so important to all of us who homeschool and frankly to all of us who have kids. And he is literally a champion. Dan Patrick is literally one of the most influential people in the state of Texas. And I think if it weren't for the fact that he were in the Senate, if instead he were in the House, he might actually be the most influential. That's an inside joke, by the way. So anyway, without further ado, he's a successful small businessman and a radio host. He and his wife, Jan, have been married 42 years. They have 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and in another few months, he's going to have 181 legislative children that he gets to deal with. Give it up for Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, James. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back. For the sound folks, if you want to turn that one off, I'll keep this one on. It is great to be back. I don't know how many years, Tim, you have invited me to be here. I want to say probably every year since I was elected in 2006, served my first session in 2007. And as I sat here tonight, I was very intently watching and listening to the young women and young men who were singing. They're the best of the best. They're our future. If every child in school, public school, charter schools, homeschooled, if every child had the support that homeschool parents give their children, this country wouldn't have any problems. So I want to applaud, and I want everyone, and applaud yourself. I want to applaud the parents in here who have made the sacrifice. And those of you who are students, understand the sacrifices your parents have made for you. The problem in America and the problem around the world is not really hard to get to the root of. It's an absence of faith and an absence of family. Show me a family rooted in the Word of God, and show me a family that focuses on their children, and I'll show you a successful outcome for that family over generations. So when I look at our homeschool children, it reminds me of something I said we were taking some photographs backstage, and many of you were back there, but not all. Think about this. In the 1980s, it was against the law. You could be arrested to homeschool your children. And today, the estimate is 300,000 children are being homeschooled today in Texas. And if you did not know this, Donna Bahorich is the chair of the State Board of Education, which is in charge of all of the curriculum, all of the education issues for our total of 6 million students in Texas. And she homeschooled all of her children. That's how far the movement has come. That's worthy of an applause. When I ran for the Senate, for those of you who don't know this, when I ran for the Senate back in 2005 and 6, launched it in 5, and you campaign in 6 to win the primary and the general, then go into the session in 07. I didn't know Donna, and I didn't know Sarah Singleton, and they were both there with my campaign. And I didn't know much about homeschooling. My wife was an elementary school teacher. Our kids went to traditional schools. So I just didn't know a lot about homeschooling, and I didn't know many homeschoolers at that time. A few, but I didn't know much about it. And I never forget when we went to the first meeting that was at a Mexican restaurant on Clay Road and Highway 6. I forget the name of the restaurant. There were about 30 parents there that they had brought together. And I said, okay, so if I get elected, what is it you want me to do? What's important? They said, leave us alone. The lights went out on that, didn't it? Basically, keep government out of our lives. We'll do just fine bringing up our children. And when you look at these young men and women up here, for all the elected officials that are here tonight, I know I speak for Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. Our whole reason for existence and running for office is those students. As James said, I have 5 grandchildren, 8, 4, 4, 3, and 1. Everything I do is about them. In fact, let me give you a little hint, by the way, if you have grandchildren. The next time you go out and take them to Chuck E. Cheese or wherever, or a nice restaurant, just thank them for picking up the check. Because I started doing that. My 8-year-old said, said, what do you mean? I can't afford to pay that. I said, yes. Because once you get to be a grandfather and a grandmother, everything you spend on them is less they're going to get when you're gone. So they're already paying for it. So you might as well enjoy their money. Buy them a nice, extra Christmas present, extra birthday present. It's all their money. My point is, everything we do and should do as adults, as parents and grandparents, should be to pass the baton of God's Word, conservative principles and values, liberty and freedom that this country was founded upon. That's our job. That's what my mother and father did for me. My mother and dad neither graduated from high school. They were the World War II generation. My dad was a Marine in the South Pacific. My mom worked in an aircraft plant. And they worked very hard when the war was over. Started out at a steel mill for my dad, and my mom was a secretary. And they provided a very good life for me. Worked really hard. But they taught me to honor and respect that flag, to respect law enforcement, to get a good education. I was the first child in my family to go to college. They taught me the right path to be on. And sadly today, in a country where 70% of African American children come home and there's not a dad at home, and over or near 50% for Hispanic families, and 40 to 50% of Anglo families in certain parts of the country, there's just a lot of children that don't have a direction. So that's why we are where we are. Now, what's happened? We have one political party in this country and in this state that wants to take us in a direction opposite everything you teach your children and your grandchildren and everything I was taught. You know, had I won the lottery last night, I don't buy lottery tickets, but if I did, and I won $10 million, I would have put $10 million on the stage tonight and said, I'll bet $10 million not one person in here takes a knee during the national anthem. In fact, I'll bet $10 million not one homeschooler of the 300,000 and their extended family in the state take a knee. But we're at a time now in our country and in our state where that's actually accepted and celebrated. We're at a time in our state where students can choose their gender at any time they want, and where one political party was absolutely okay for taking a knee during the flag, aborting innocent life in the womb, and allowing 10th and 11th graders to share showers and locker rooms together. There's a real difference in our party, the Republicans. We don't always get it right, but there's just a difference. This is a big choice election that's coming up in our state and our country. And I can't worry about the other 49 states, but I worry about Texas. We as Republicans have only been in charge for 15 years. It wasn't until 2003 that we had statewide officials who were all Republicans, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, land commissioner, ag commissioner, railroad commissioners, and had the majority in the House and the Senate. That's only been since 2003. And we have gotten comfortable in the business community of really good business legislation. And that's why our state has the 10th largest economy in the world, has created more jobs than all the other states combined together, and why 1,000 people a day are moving here. That was set up by Republicans in leadership, starting with Rick Perry. But more than that, it's only been 15 years since we protected religious liberty, when we have become the most pro-life state in the Union, when we defend and protect the Second Amendment. And we've gotten a little comfortable. So this November, and early vote starts a week from Monday, don't be comfortable. I would urge you, when you vote, to vote straight ticket. And I would urge you to urge all of your friends to vote straight ticket. Because let me tell you what this election is about. The Democrats have a candidate by the name of Beto O'Rourke. You saw he just raised $38 million in 6 months, on top of the other 30 he had. Their goal is to get him to lose by less than 5 points. He's not going to beat Ted Cruz, but he could close the gap. And then their second goal is to spend all of their money in getting Democrats to vote straight ticket. So if Beto loses by 3 or 4, I think Ted will win by 10. But if they accomplish their goal and they vote 80% straight ticket, which means one button and everybody gets the same vote, and Republicans vote 55 or 60% straight ticket, which is kind of where we are, because Republicans don't like that, then guess what? We lose judges on our Supreme Court, we lose appeals court judges, we lose 10 or 15 House seats, we lose 1 or 2 state Senate seats, we lose 2 or 3 congressmen, and with that we lose the House, which will then impeach the president. So a lot's riding on this election. And the reason I talk about straight ticket voting is because Republicans, when I used to do my talk show and when I posted on Facebook, and even now, people will say, Dan, don't tell me who to vote for. I don't want to vote for someone I don't know. And there's too many people on that ballot, and I don't know who they are. And I said, then you're going to help elect someone who does not share your values. Because there's not a Democrat on the ticket who comes out of their primary as a conservative. There's not a Democrat that comes out of their primary who protects life. There's not a Democrat that comes out of the primary that supports what you do. So it's really important, more than ever. I want to close by just sharing this with you. We will always, as Republicans, protect parental rights and homeschoolers. You'll never have to worry with Ken Paxton in the Attorney General's office, or me as Lieutenant Governor, or the House members who are here, like James Frank, and I start naming names, but I'll leave someone out that can be introduced later, or our Senate. But if we do not prevail, you're a target. You are a target. Your parental rights are a target, and homeschooling your children is a target. So it's more important than ever. You know, I like to think that all of us in Texas have the DNA of Crockett and Bowie and Travis in us. We're fighters and we never quit. So we're up for a challenge. I've heard the blue wave's coming. We'll have a red tsunami. We'll have a bigger surfboard. We will fight back and we will protect homeschoolers. We have 6 million kids in school in Texas. That's more people in school than half the states have people. Of those, 300,000 are homeschooled, 250,000 are in private schools, about 250,000 are public charters, and the other 5.2 million are traditional schools. And one other issue I've been fighting for a long time, for those 5.2 million in public schools, and we have a lot of great teachers and a lot of great schools, absolutely. And your children have a right to participate in UIL activities, whether it's sports or academic activities. And once again, we will drive that out of the Senate, and I don't know who the next speaker is, but I hope it's a friendly ear and a friendly voice, because you pay your school property taxes, and I like to say in my radio commercials, because it's just the right thing to do. And we're going to try and get that done. So thank you for being here tonight. To the donors, you have invested wisely in this organization. Tim is a great leader. The leaders that I know, whether they're students, they're the best lobbyists when they come to the Capitol, by the way. They're the best lobbyists. No one can say no to them. No one can say no to them. They're spit and polished and polite. Yes, ma'am, yes, sir. No, ma'am, no, sir. It's always a privilege. So thank you for what you do. You're making Texas, besides making the education of your child the best it can possibly be, and the sacrifice you're making Texas better. And by making Texas better, you make America better. The world needs a strong America. America needs a strong Texas. And that's a state that is founded on God's word, conservative principles, and Texas values. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. God bless.
Yeah. I'm not a bigger fan of homeschooling and yeah. Thank you very much. So obviously he has a busy time. He did not mention it. Actually, he's on the ballot. We need to make sure everybody votes for him, which would be handled with straight ticket as well. But really, really appreciate Lieutenant Governor Patrick and being here and the support he gives the homeschooling community and the leadership that he gives.